Thank you, Andrea. My name is Chris Manasari. I'm a faculty member in the Foundations and Social Advocacy Department here, and I teach primarily courses in educational leadership. So most of my students are graduate level students. They have master's degrees already. They're teachers, and they're coming back to school to learn what they need to pass exams to become principals and superintendents and business officials and things like that. So our presentation this afternoon is about one of the tools that we are putting in place currently. It's very new, and that's an opportunity for us to collect and to catalog and preserve the internship projects that these students have to do when they're in their field placements. So let's see what we have to say here. So I'm relatively new to the program here. This is the end of my second year. The program has been in existence for 45 years. During that time, it's put out 1,800 people into the field to become school leaders. And for a length of time, I'm actually a graduate of the program myself, so I have some little more sense of history with it. For a length of time, there's been this significant internship project required of the candidates. They have to take 8 courses plus a seminar and the internship. And the internship varies in length. It's usually more than one semester, a summer plus a semester or a summer plus the intervening year. And during that time, they have this great project that they have to do. So last year, my first year here, I supervised some of these candidates, and some of them were doing their projects and collecting all their information in great big 8-inch thick notebooks, which they didn't like carrying around, and I didn't like necessarily taking home to read and all that kind of stuff. So we've moved toward using things like Google Drive and things like that for them to complete and chronicle their internship projects. But these projects represent a great deal of work, and there's not always a good way to put it into one particular document format. So earlier this year, Julia sent an email out to the faculty here at Cortland introducing Sway. And we sort of jumped at that as an opportunity for people who have already created Word documents and Excel spreadsheets and PowerPoints and videos and all this kind of stuff to put it in one place easily. And that's what Sway allows us to do. The other thing that we saw as a problem with our program design was the students created these internships. They worked with their school districts on developing something that was meaningful to the school district. And as a college supervisor, I'd go out and give it my benediction, and we give them a pass-fail at the end of the time. But we had no record of what they did other than a simple checkoff that said, yep, completed a project. Most places that offer doctoral degrees, the library will catalog a copy of that person's dissertation. So our thinking was we should do that too with these internship projects. So we were looking for the vehicle that would allow us to do that. Sway appears to be the answer. So it gives us this opportunity for the candidate to present their project, for us to evaluate it, for them to share it. One of the things we did is we created a group of EDL interns. So this way, those interns can see one another's work. Our hope is, now that we have a small collection of them in the archive, that we can share those as exemplars for future student work. And we kind of toyed with this idea of at least selling it to the interns by saying, this is an opportunity for you to have something online, publishable format, that you can share with future employers. So when you're in that interview situation, if you're proud of the work that you did and you want to give folks an idea of the quality of work that you're conversant with, this is an opportunity for you to just send them the link and they can get into your Sway. This past summer, we actually had a speaker here on campus named Will Richardson. And Will's premise is, it's called Modern Schooling or Change School. And his advice to a group of, we had about 130 school administrators, teachers, folks like that here at where you guys had lunch today. He said, you know, we got to stop doing school where all you're doing is the assignment to please the teacher. We have to make the work meaningful, authentic, and publishable so that other people see it. That added audience puts a little bit more pressure on the quality of the work and provides that extra incentive to say I really need to do a very good job. So this is a way of publishing that work. The tool we decided to try to use was Sway. It allows us to present, preserve, and publish these projects. As Julia will show you in a moment or two, students did not have to do their project and then do a separate Sway. They were able to do their project and convert those contents into pages in Sway. And it gave them an opportunity to model some of the technology use that we think aspiring school administrators should be able to present when they go to work. So we have, this is my screenshot of my Sway page right now. All the students had to do their projects, they had to turn them into me, and they all go in one spot. And they have sort of different looks to them depending on the graphics that the student chose. And the next slide gives you an idea of what some of the topics are. So these would typically have been done as extended research papers. Predictive analysis to determine the likelihood of school dropouts, support for learning and parental involvement in a comprehensive school climate survey. One of our students was a teacher and an administrative intern in a nationally recognized blue ribbon school this year, so she was able to put that piece together. So they have a great deal of autonomy on what their project is going to be, so we come up with a fairly eclectic collection of material. Tracy, who was going to try to join us today because she works only in Marathon, one of the neighboring districts, gave us permission to share her Sway to give you a sense of the kinds of things that she put into hers. Tracy is an interesting lady, 27-year teacher, nationally board certified, gave up a tenured position in Homer to accept a one-year appointment as an assistant principal for her internship in McGraw. And she's sort of a star pupil among this year's graduating class with our group. She did the first Sway for us back in November, and hers was the sample that we tried to use for our December grads and for our spring grads. So we're going to play you just a brief bit of Tracy's Sway. And the actual document, you play it, and it sort of goes on autopilot when you do that. So Julia's rolling through that now. We'll give you a brief clip of the video introduction.
Hello, my name is Tracy Durkee, and I'm currently an intern with SUNY Portland's Educational Leadership Program. Next month I'll be graduating with my CAS in both building and district leadership. And one of the things that we had to complete for our internship portfolio was a project. So I am currently serving as an intern in the McGraw Central School District, as well as serving as their assistant principal at the high school. So McGraw is a little rural town in Portland County.
And I think we can let that play while we show some other pieces too, right?
Well, I'll just pause her.
So what Tracy did is she designed, she's a bit of a curriculum nerd, so she designed a K-12 technology curriculum for this small rural district, 450 students, that allows either a 3 or a 5 credit CTE sequence for high school graduation and allows dual credit with TC3. So it's a really nice project. She had work with elementary people. She had to develop the relationship with TC3 and their folks about the contract that would allow the dual enrollment credit. She's got video clips, she's got pictures, she's got a narrated PowerPoint, all within this one document. And we can pick and choose which portions of it we might like to see. So that gives you a sense of what Tracy was able to include in her project, including, I think as we go through it, you'll see some of the actual contracts and things that were signed. So much like we would have an appendix at the end of a report that has some of the detailed pieces, that's in the SWAY as well. So there's not a piece of the internship project that had to be left out in order to condense it for the SWAY. We can see 3 minutes of the SWAY. We could probably spend 30 minutes looking at the detail or longer. And that was part of what was appealing to us. And this is her exit video. I tried to ask them to put a frame on it so that those of us who were not technologists might enjoy that.
In summation of this entire project, I just wanted to sum up what a CTE pathway for high school students truly is. It is a sequence of classes within a career interest for a high school student. It's designed to connect high school classes to college and/or career based on whatever the pathway is that the students choose, as well as the opportunities afforded to them from the school district. As well, there are opportunities to acquire free technical skills with training through high school classes as well as real-world experience. And if I had the opportunity to sum up the learning that I personally gained.
So the little bookend piece, the video piece, is really the only additional work that we asked the students to do. As Julia will explain in a moment, it's pretty easy to create a SWAY. One of my students in the spring term is doing an internship at Unadilla Valley, and she said, oh yeah, the students there do it. Third graders in my building use SWAY. So it was kind of like, okay, I think maybe we can get the graduate students to do it then. So that's a sample of what Tracy might have shown us were she here today. And we'll go on to one more slide or so for my part, I think, and that covers it. Maybe not. Maybe we go right to Julia's part. Okay, Julia.
All right. So my name is Julia Morag, and I'm the Technology Training Coordinator here at SUNY Cortland. And the reason that we ended up using SWAY for this particular project, our design help team sends out periodic video of things that are available. And they had asked me to do a video about SWAY. We're an Office 365 campus, and so we're always trying, we have tons and tons of tools, and we always try and get people to use the tools that we have because there are so many great collaboration tools within Office 365. So I did a short video about SWAY, and so Chris contacted me about how we could do this. So I'm going to take a look at exactly how to create a SWAY, which is pretty easy, but also how we save these, because these are all saved within a Sharepoint site. So Office 365 is our webmail, our contacts. You can have a you can access your calendar through there. It's also Word, PowerPoint, Excel online. But in addition to all of these, there's a lot of collaboration tools that you can use. So I think next year everything's going to start changing a little bit, but right now we have groups that you can use. So you can, and a group is just a coherent collection of people. You can use it as a distribution list. You can use it to share files. You can use it to share a calendar. Groups are a basic building block of things in Office 365. So you can have a planner. And every group also comes with a SharePoint site, which you can use. If you share files, it's very handy. SWAY is a little bit different. And SWAY is not so much a presentation app like we're familiar with PowerPoint that has a very sort of rigid structure to it. But SWAY is a little bit more of a storytelling app. And so it is able to take a lot more information, pictures, videos, and a lot more actual text than is usually seen in a PowerPoint. And so it's a great way to bring together all of the students' work that they've done for the semester. So I'm just going to move over here. Oop. Okay. So in Office 365, the app launcher up here will show you all the things that you have available to you. There's quite a few more apps. I've gotten rid of some of them. But if I click on Sway, I'm going to open my Sway page. And that's what this looks like. I can create a Sway either from scratch. I can start from a specific topic if I want to, or I can upload a PowerPoint or a Word document that I can start my Sway from. But if I just create a new one, actually what I'm going to do here, well, I'll just create a new one. Okay, so it's really just a series of cards that we're putting together. So I can add anything else. So here I'm going to title it if I want a picture, my pictures are always found on the left-hand side. Text is always on the right-hand side of this card. It has a little AI engine, so whatever I've typed into this particular card, it's going to go search for, and then it gives me some other interesting things if what I've typed in there isn't really interesting enough. So it's going to search for test presentation, you know, animals, food, things that people would generally search for. Or I can look on my own computer for images. To add things, all I have to do is click on this plus sign, and I can add more text, headings, images. I can group these together. So you saw the way Tracy's had things that were in coherent groups. I can add different cards and pictures. So, and when I've done it, when I've added things, I want to continually play to see what it's looking like. Here, in addition to adding cards, I can change the design of my Sway right here. And now each one of these will give me a different layout. And so so now it's going to look a little bit different. So it's a very easy way to add a lot of information. Here I have, now what we did in order to keep all these Sways together was we used the SharePoint. We, first of all, made a group that consisted of all of the students in the class. So everyone can share files and see what each other are doing. Now, from that group, this is the SharePoint site. Oh, this is my fake one because I didn't want to show all their things. But let's see here. In that SharePoint site, Chris created a page for each student. Each student can add whatever they want to this page. So that's where they put their Sway. So each page is named for each student. They can log onto it. They can change that page however they want to. They can change the heading. They can add their Sway to that page. And if there are things that they didn't find that fit well in the Sway, they can also add those to the page. And so here is my one page. So this was the little page I created. You can change the heading and the picture up here. You can add text. You can add documents. There's a document viewer. And then here's the Sway. Okay, and let's see here. And I've just added it so I can just scroll through it, and I've got videos in here. And each of those videos can be expanded. And so Tracy's had hers on automatic advance, and mine is just, you can scroll through here. Okay? And so the way the, let's see here. Okay, so then that's on my SharePoint site page, and so each student then has a page that they can do with what they want. The one issue that we ran into, and we're not actually sure if it's an issue yet, but we'll find out, is that when students lose their cortland.edu email address, their Sway account also goes away. But it's very handy because as soon as we open up a Sway, we can duplicate it. So Chris has been duplicating each of his students, so he actually has the archive of them, and he is able to save all of them and re-upload them to these pages. So.
One of the nice things about this Sway format as well is that you can move through it either vertically or horizontally, and it's actually quite a nice look when you're going across the pages instead of scrolling down them. We actually did ask Julia to do a Sway about how to make a Sway so that the students could just click on that and follow those directions, and then either Julia or I were available to help them with it. We did, our little brochure about this presentation talks about a digital portfolio for multiple projects as well. And Sway would allow us to do that. In fact, Tracy, being the good student that she is, she's already put multiple documents onto her SharePoint site. So not only is her Sway there, but some of the other assignments that she was asked to complete. We do, one of the things that we've tried to pay a little attention to, having recently gone through a Cape visit with the School of Ed, is how are we going to archive student artifacts for future reference. So the Sway piece is nice for that major culminating project, but it's also something that we've sort of targeted for key assessments in various courses. So we use Blackboard for our course design, and we have key assessments that are required in each of those 8 courses that precede the internship experience. But previously, people would complete the assignment, they'd load it to their Dropbox in Blackboard, they'd get a grade, and nobody kept any of the key assignments. So now we have a mechanism through which we can say, we want you to save it not only in the class page, but also on your SharePoint site. So the way we're envisioning this is, as students enter our program, we're small, we have maybe 75 active students in the program. As they are accepted, we'll create that SharePoint site with them, and that's their repository for key assessments, including the culminating project that's presented in Sway. So we see some advantages of using Sway, as that it is independent of Blackboard. So the other way we've thought about doing that is to use a Blackboard organization as opposed to classes. It gives us multiple means of content input. Anything that you can create, you can save in Sway. Pretty easy to use. We think we can have those projects available long term. Most of our students complete their 30 credits within 2 years. Sometimes it's 5 years. But this is our attempt to at least put this sort of archiving system over the top of things. We'll be able to hold on to it for posterity, for our accreditation purposes and for their interview purposes. And it gives us a chance to say, if you're going to be a school leader, you better get used to some of the technology that's out there and practice using it. So that's pretty much what we have to say, right, Julia?
Anyone have any questions?
Sarah, is there a charge for this, or is it like every other kind of system where you get free kind of thing and then you can purchase more?
Um,
Office 365 in education is a contract with SUNY, it's free.
Oh, so it's not something that's, I caught that before, but I didn't realize it's on the system. Oh.
It's, so SUNY offers a Google contract or an Office 365 contract to schools. Both are free. Some schools are Google schools, others are Office 365. We have all the suite of products that Office 365 offers are fully accessible. Some of the Google contract doesn't cover everything that Google Apps covers. So we started with Google Apps and moved to Office 365 about 4 years ago.
Yes, sir.
How do you make your sway video accessible? How do you capture the sway video?
Students used their iPads. They had a video file that they were able to upload. I did have a couple students that struggled with it, and they ended up putting a link to YouTube into their sway. But they all seemed to overcome the issue one way or the other. I think Tracy's is just a video file that's embedded in the sway itself.
And I didn't see if hers was captioned or not, but Stream, which is also a part of the Office 365 apps, is a place where they can put videos and they're closed captioned, and they could embed the videos from Stream, and that would have closed captioning.
Yes, sir.
With regard to the archiving notion, this is something I've been trying to get a handle on, and maybe you're having the same trouble, but you talk about, what happens when the student leaves and what happens to the work, and so you've copied it and you put it somewhere. What happens when you leave?
I'm going to hold the campus ransom.
Everything in Microsoft seems to be predicated on the notion that individuals are doing things. I haven't found any bucket where you can put institutional data.
Right. Well, Julie and I have talked about that a little bit, about sort of creating a fake account. Like, okay, can I, have a multiple account? One which is what I use for daily business, and another which is, like, can we create a EDL interns?
That when he created the class group, he could have multiple owners of that group. So before he retires or wins the lottery,
Or gets hit by a bus?
he needs to add another owner to the group, and that's how you keep the continuity.
So right now, we're both owners of the group. I think there's some
Yeah.
other people who are owners of the group as well. I'm not sure. But anytime, the group can continue on in perpetuity with, as long as there is a person who is on campus who has that EDU email.
So we're going to be
address.
hiring a new faculty member in our program, and one of the things that I perceive my job to be is to inculcate him into the club, and so, like, you're going to need to do this, and this is what we've established. It's all predicated on hope, but we'd like to see it continue, and we think we took some steps in the right direction. Yes, sir.
So my question is related to that with the archiving. So you copy the sway.
Yep.
Does the copy process grab all the files in the sway and duplicate them and change owner name as well? Because my fear would be like, okay, I copied the template, but everything that's embedded is gonna go poof.
I don't know the answer, Julia.
I don't know, actually, we haven't run up against it yet. So far, we've copied it, everything seems to work just fine. But no, we haven't run up against losing access to anything in this way.
Yes, ma'am.
The other questions related is that you, I saw the ease of use, and also you can archive, perhaps separate that might be good for accreditation. You have the data, but maybe separate from when they make a portfolio, because when they leave the EDU Portland, it's more of an institutional, preparatory. When you make portfolio, the ownership. So you, as an instructor, you own that. For each learner, individual student, their ownership, they own that for now. But when they leave the EDU, then they don't have the ownership. Then I saw you have a plus and a minus. So then
Actually,
a
really
lot of
pluses.
those plus and the minus part, that is all just
Well,
you don't have the student, they don't have that. The other thing is the skill. The skill they learn, you spend a lot of time learning the skill now, but they do not take this with them in their institution. Like Blackboard, very similar. That's just some comment or some swing.
I was a K-12 school administrator for quite a while, and one of the things we were trying to do in the last district in which I worked was to create a digital portfolio of student work that could archive the student's experience K through 12. And this was 15 years ago, but we were trying to find vendors that could accommodate that. So when this came along and we saw what the potential power was, and the fact that it was already here, nobody had to buy anything, nobody had to subscribe to anything, this seemed like a tool that made sense for us to try to use. Yes, ma'am?
Have you tried exporting it? Can you export it?
You can export it as a PDF.
Or just a
Word
PDF?
document, yes, you can't export it as SWAY at this point. However, the student can continue to own this if they themselves subscribe to Office 365. So if they would like to keep this document in this particular format, if they purchase Office 365 personally, once they leave, they are able to, they also have access to SWAY, and then they can certainly have access to whatever they create here. But everything that goes into this is their own documents, and I would hope that they would also put them in some sort of digital portfolio in another, in another format. This is a project for this campus. If they're going to go somewhere else, they might want to keep it in a different format.
Andrea has
That's
stood
all.
up. It's already 4:01. So thank you for your attention this afternoon. Julie and I will be here if you want to ask other questions.